thank you for your presence. We thank you, Lord, that we submit ourselves to you, Lord.
Yes.
You will
Hallelujah.
set us afire, Father God, with this
Hallelujah.
holy fire, Father God, and this fire, Father God, that we yield ourselves to, Father God, will consume us, Father God, so we will become all that you would have us to
Yes,
be,
Lord.
Father God. We, Father God, are laying ourselves on the altar, Father,
Yes.
allowing you to consume us with the power of the Spirit.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
We'll glorify you, Father God. Allow us, Father God, to just become all that you want us to be, Father God.
Yes.
We pray right now, Father God, that each of us will yield ourselves to you, Father God, and receive
Yes, Lord.
from heaven this day, Father God, what you have for us, Father God, and you alone, Father God. We rebuke anything, Father God, ask you to shut out anything that's not you right now, Father God. We come, Father God, to hear uninterrupted, uncontaminated, Father God, your word, Father God, in its purity, in its truth, Father God, in its effectiveness, Father God, that your word will consume us, Father God, and as it consumes us, we become the word, Father God.
Yes.
We desire, Father God, to be what you would have us to be. So we give ourselves to you right now. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for all you do, all you've done, and all you're going to do right now in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who don't know, I'm subbing for Pastor Dave, who's in the Bahamas right now. I think I heard that mentioned. So I know some of you keep your schedule, so I'm not the schedule speaker, but I'll do what I can in Pastor Dave's absence. Today, it will be a milestone because today I will conclude the wilderness process. This will be part 2 of the wilderness process.
Amen.
And I pray that we all follow it because it has been what God's having me to do is to draw the analogy. And I must confess, I don't think it started this way, but that's what God built me to start, was to look at this Exodus process as a template for our journey from being saved, delivered, how we want to put the terminology. See, coming in the church, to look at this process and see what God did and to try to see this is the way that God does things, and I can refer to this and use this process to measure my own life, sort of see where I am. It's not like a measuring stick. You see, if God did this for the children of Israel, he does it to us. Now, it's of course a little different, it's different times now, but the process is still the same. Where God separated his children from the dominion of an oppressive government. We can equate that with us being saved, coming out of the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. The one thing that happens, just because you come to the kingdom of light, don't mean, okay, now I'm good, I have all I need. No, because Jesus called it a new birth. Really, we have a new beginning. And we got to be aware of that. And actually the design of the church is to facilitate, as the children of Israel became a congregation when they left Egypt into the promised land. Once we were saved, it was the responsibility of a church. If we unite ourselves with it, the responsibility is to take us and guide us through this sort of an Exodus process. Okay, if we don't exodus where we were, we will stay where we were.
All right.
And the thing is, we won't know that we didn't go anywhere. But guess what? The people supposed to be leading you somewhere, they didn't go anywhere either. So it's nothing worse than being in church and haven't gone anywhere, but you think you have. You're just doing church, you're not exiting. All you do is look at, okay, this is the world, this is how the church works, this is how, and see how much you can get between the two. So in case we don't want to be guilty of at least not making our full attempt for us to identify and be aware of where we stand in God. It's not about church, it's not about KC, it's not about anybody else. It's about, okay, God, you have taken me from this dominion into this dominion. Right now, I need to be aware of it. I need to start to conduct myself as if I know where I'm going and what I'm doing.
All right now.
Instead of just doing church over and over and coming to church and there's no change. Because I heard some people say that's the mark of insanity, they're doing the same thing over and over again and expect the different results. Keep this gonna get better. I just keep listening to Pastor preach, eventually it's gonna start making sense. Man, no, it's not. You just can't hope things that's gonna get better. And I'm not criticizing anything, but see, we got to know it's an individual thing. Because we keep seeing God said, I'm going to take the children of Israel around this route, because once they run into this, the Philistines, they have to fight. Some are going to go back to Egypt.
Whoa.
He knows, he doesn't criticize us. He knows that we will turn our back on him and go back into sin what was coming.
Amen.
The only thing is that we call it black sliding out. But see, the problem of the egregious situation can be is that you can be in a congregation where there's responsibility for us to try to pull each other forward, or push each other forward, or encourage each other to go forward away from Egypt toward the promised land spiritually, but yet nobody else. People done slid our way back into Egypt. Okay? Oh, I'll leave it alone. I almost said it. Okay. I almost don't want to touch it, but now I'm just go ahead. I just suffer.
Righteousness.
See, that was a huge error in the Roman Catholic Church, because they accepted everything. Once they conquered some people, just bring your own pagan beliefs in. We just add another page to our litany, to our doctrine. You want to do voodoo? That's not a problem. We got a voodoo section. Voodoo minister, come over here. Voodoo folk. And I'm serious, because they do that in church, and so everything the church becomes so convoluted and so polluted, it's not church anymore. And it's not leading us away from that bondage. We're bringing the bondage into the church.
That's right.
Can you imagine, I don't think I'm gonna let the wall fall on Pharaoh. They're not really that bad. We can use that armor when we get to the promised land. They'll convert. We'll just keep praying for them, and we'll let them have the Egyptian ministry. They'll be like the Egyptian Israelites, and we'll just use them. It wasn't designed that way. The Exodus means Exodus, and we're going to that.
Yeah.
That was my introduction, but we'll have to suffice. So today, the last time I was before you, we spoke of, we got finished with the 10 Commandments in Exodus chapter 20, I think it was, not going back there. And the thing, this is a matter of review, we want to look at the fact that a portion of the commandments in God's, what we call the 10 Commandments, it related to our relationship with God. I'm not going to reemphasize that. If you want to see it again, read Exodus 20 for yourself. 1 through 11. So the first portion shows our relationship with God, and the second related portion, if you look at the commandment, they govern our relationship with one another. That's what God left. That's part of the process. And for the time to take out, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go back over that. So that's where we stopped off. So today I want to pick up with Exodus chapter 23. It's not a lot, but I want to try to go in depth with some of it, because the more I study it, it doesn't get more confusing, and I really, bear with me, I really want to emphasize this in a way that where we can gather and that it makes sense, and not just throw out knowledge or just information. Is a more accurate word. Because at times we hear people preach about that. I studied about this and I got this, and like you got a revelation. You may or may not have a revelation. Just talk about it, but really, you can talk about something that you know. But the important thing, if you're going to talk to people, then we need to try to condense it down to the point where they can at least somewhat comprehend what you're talking about, the intent. And see, that's not on behalf of the receiver. To me, it's on behalf of the transmitter. So y'all pray for me and pray that I can articulate this in a manner that will make sense, because it can get to be not really confusing, but sometimes you think of things one way and you hear it a different way, like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if I'm exactly, I didn't hear, Reverend so-and-so didn't say that, but maybe I'm overanalyzing myself. But anyway, we're going to start with in chapter 23 of Exodus. And if you would, put your finger in chapter 23 of Leviticus. We're going to go back and forth and talk about the 3 national feasts that God institute. 3 national feasts. Now, this is not all, but he says 3 national feasts. And it's going to start with Exodus chapter 23, down with verse 15. Now, before that, and I would advise you to read the rest of 23 because it starts to talk about, after the 10 Commandments, it talks about additional judgment. I don't want to get into that, but it shows God was very concerned about not only how we related to him, but how we relate to each other, and actually said penalties for certain things that you do. And one of the things that was notable is if you kidnap somebody and you sell them into slavery, the penalty for that was death.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what God says. You kidnap somebody, you sell them. Remember, if you sell them as a slave, if you still have them, you should be killed.
It's in there.
Yeah, that's what it said. Just read it. Read the rest of 23. Now, I don't want to get on that because I'm told I can get bigger lesson. I'm like, nah, that's interesting. Okay, I thought, see, I'm trying to stay out of the bunny trail arena today. I can't. I'll just discipline myself. Okay, we're talking about the 3 national feasts. And we'll start at Exodus 23, and we'll start verse 14. I'm going to read down to 19. Exodus 23, verse 14 through 19. And it reads, this is the New King James. 3 times you shall keep a feast to me in a year. You shall keep the feast of the unleavened bread, for you shall eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded you. At the time appointed in the month of Abib, for in it you came out of Egypt. None shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruit of your labors which you have sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times in the year, all your males shall appear before the Lord God. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until morning. The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Okay, there's a lot added on, and you got to be careful when you get into this. But essentially, God is talking about 3 feasts. There are more than 3. If you read Leviticus, there's a number. We're only going to talk about these 3 now because these are the 3 that God has mentioned. And now, right after the 10 Commandments and the judgments, he's talking about these 3 feasts, and I can understand. I think I understand why. First, I'm going to try to put them in concept. That month of Abib is also called Nisan, if you do research. In the Jewish calendar, that is the first month of the year. I understand. I want to put it that way because a lot of times I have to change our thinking because so much right now is, I get so wrapped up in the Gregorian calendar because I think, well, wait a minute, it can't be the first month of the year because it's not January. And I'm not questioning it, I'm just trying for the sake of understanding. I need to understand because the feast of the Passover and unleavened bread is in the first month of the year. And I feel that there's significance to that. I'm going to read it in Leviticus what it was, because what God is saying, your time, and this is me, your time right now is beginning once you are delivered, once you have left Egypt. This is what I want you to memorialize. See, a lot of times I've heard in the past, I'm not going to criticize people, but sometimes you get ministers and they think that it seems to be suitable, or maybe in the way they try to minister, they try to reach people in a certain way, but they spend a lot of time ministering about their past life before they were saved. You know how bad they need to be. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, but God is saying right now, when you remember me, you remember the first thing I did for you, the first event that brought you from where you were to where I wanted you to be, what started this journey. That's the Passover. You see, so glorify everything before that salvation, before that deliverance, even though it's there. And I'm not saying we just exclude everything we did in the past, because it's good to remember that, and understand that, but we don't want to glorify that. We got to understand in comparison, it's more important for us to emphasize what happens, how we are from the deliverance day, from that beginning day, and we call it the new birth day. It's the first month, it's the Passover. Now, what is the Passover about? Let's go with Leviticus. And there it goes, already stay there. Leviticus chapter 4, now 23. Leviticus 23, we're going to read 4 through 8. Now understand, God is still making the children, He's not just telling them to do this just to do it, not to fill in white space on their calendar. There's a significance, there's a reason for these things. Leviticus 23, starting verse 4 says, "These are the feasts of the Lord, the holy convocations which you shall proclaim at the appointed time. On the 14th day of the first month at twilight is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread to the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation." That word convocation is a gathering. "You shall do no customary work on it. But you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord for 7 days. The 7th day shall be a holy convocation, and you shall do no customary work on it." To understand that the Passover was set aside. The first day, the Passover is on the first day, and then the 7 days preceding the Passover was the unleavened bread. 7 days. So God said 7 days eat the unleavened bread. So what is He saying? What does that mean? Let's try to break it down and see what exactly it means. The Passover. Know what the Passover means? I think we all know what the Passover is. The Passover was the events of the last plague that hit Egypt. So God did pass over. He wanted to remind them that I did pass over you on that night. I smote the firstborn of the Egyptians, but I did not smite the firstborn of Israel. As long as you put the blood of this sacrificial lamb on the lintel and the doorpost. So you need to remember that. What bought me out? What power enabled me to live this new life? It was the fact that God passed over the blood.
Yeah.
And it says in there, when you read back, it says you have to stay in this dwelling over which you have put this blood over the lintel and over the doorpost.
Jesus.
Amen.
God, I'm not looking at you because really, compared to what I'm about to do, you personally are insignificant. When my death angel coming, he is looking at one thing. He's looking for the blood of the lamb. And over that, he will pass over and it is safe. If I don't see it, you're going to suffer judgment. It's not personal. It has nothing to do with you personally. Kind of like, Sally and the Godfather. Tell Mike it wasn't personal. God tells me it's not personal. If you don't have the blood of the lamb, the death angel is just going to do what it does. So when we're not under the blood, things just happen. Not personal. God's not out to get you. You're not even cursed. You just need to know where your security is. And God said, I don't want you to forget this. Because I think God can be convinced that you can talk to some, I'm trying to avoid the bunny trails here, but sometimes it appears that some people forget how they got saved. Which can almost make you wonder if they're saved. You bragging about yourself, you did all this, you did nothing. I did nothing. I did absolutely zero to get saved.
That's right.
How could we? Because spiritually we're dead. So God said you need to remember this so you can remember how this whole new relationship came about. You need to understand how you became free. You need to understand who made you free. You understand who did it and how it was done. So now I want this feast, I want you to do this every year. It's possible. And I want you to eat that unleavened bread for 7 days, but now to remind you that you left in haste. That means all these luxuries you had back here, what seemed to be luxuries back when you were in Egypt, living in sin, those are not luxuries anymore. We need to be deprogrammed from enjoying the benefits of sin. Because if you look at some of these cases, a lot of times when the children of Israel were out in that desert, going through the wilderness, they became uncomfortable. They felt they didn't have enough food, and they didn't like what they were getting, and they didn't have any water. That was the first thing they said, in Egypt. In Egypt.
Yeah.
We had pots of beef in Egypt. I ate till I was stuffed. Well, he was beaten. You were being beaten too. Now, that's all right. I was full, though. I was a slave, but I was full. I'm free now, I'm hungry. I don't like this. I'd rather go back and be a slave and fool than be free and hungry. So that's a ridiculous thing.
Wow.
Because you need to understand, you eat that unleavened bread. You don't need the fluff of the world. So you look at it, unleavened is sufficient. I got to deprogram you from the fluff. You know how they take you out there. I've never been to one, but you know on TV, them fat farms and stuff, where they take the people, usually people that don't just know what they eat, go out here and let somebody else oppress them. They don't let you give them rice cakes and that shit. I don't know. God, yeah, I try to avoid them. But God knows you got to change the way you think. And sometimes, you know, for some, I know for me, I think it works for most people to change the way we think. We have to change our behavior.
Yeah.
Kind of like Brother Nick when we went in the Army. Like first day of basic training. The first thing they make you aware when you get to the prison station, you go to any branch, I'm sure. But the Army is very, and I know Marines are like too. First thing they let you know, you are not in charge here. There is one way to Navy too, I'm sure. They let you know one thing you're gonna do is what we tell you to do. You're gonna do it the Navy way, or you can go back to where you came. Now God is not ruthless like that, but see, they change your behavior. Now you change the way you think. You stop thinking like a civilian. You start to think like a sailor. You start thinking like a soldier. You start thinking like a Marine. You start thinking like an airman. But God has said to her, y'all need to think like believers. Y'all need to think like y'all are my children.
Okay.
I have birthed you. I've done this for you. I didn't do this just because you're all that. I did this for you to reflect me.
Yeah.
So that's the significance of the Passover and the unleavened bread. And it was in the first month. It indicates a new beginning, but it also foreshadows in the future because it's also prophetic. And this was sometimes we get in danger, but you want to see it here, but think about it this way. Because of that lamb, now there was certain criteria for the lamb for the Passover, right? Remember that. It was the firstborn. It had to be without spot or wrinkle, without blemish. It was without blemish. You had to get through the blood of this lamb. Now Christ the Redeemer, when he was crucified, and this was the significance of that, Jesus was crucified, he was hung on the cross, it wasn't nailed to the cross. You notice one thing, you look at significance, why did Jesus die the way he died? I mean, we know that, that's not rhetorical. But think about this, how he fulfilled the same criteria, because God's criteria doesn't change. He was a sacrificial lamb. That's why he gave up the ghost prematurely. Because it was a custom for the Romans to break the leg of the people being crucified so they couldn't support themselves, so they would die quicker. But he couldn't, Jesus' body couldn't be damaged, couldn't be replaced. He was a perfect Passover lamb, so he gave up the ghost prematurely so that his body would remain intact. And that may seem like an insignificant thing, but understand, even Jesus had to do things according to God's way. To be the Passover lamb, he had to be like that Passover lamb. So we need to know they're not coming, they're no close with God. They're either it is or it is not. So Jesus fulfilled that. And the fact that he lived sinless, and that's also spot or wrinkle inside, but also the animal that you bring cannot be lame or sick. See, that's what some people want to bring God. Well, you know, my lamb was going to die anyway, because it had got hit by a car. See if I can get it to the priest before it's become road kill. Okay, it's just road damage, it's not road kill. No, we don't do it. You got to bring God once. The best.
That's right.
He wants that first one, he wants the best, he wants the perfect. Because if not, if we don't do that, we're not acknowledging him as God. But just imagine if it's the other way around. We want to give God just anything. Now what if he just want to bless us this kind of anyway? God, like, okay, this how you do me, now this how I'm going to do you? I'm gonna make sure you get halfway to work, then I'll retire. And I'm not gonna help you get them back on. You know, I know that's a little radical, but see, God wouldn't do that. I'm just using that as a really ridiculous example. But we got to understand that God's standard does not change. So that's the feast of the Passover, which reminds, and it does two things, remind the children of Israel of what they've done, but see, understand, these will be done every year, from generation to generation to generation, because eventually these older people are going to die out, they're not going to know anything. They're not going to remember all that. Matter of fact, before they got to the promised land, there was only what? Joshua and Caleb made it in. So the rest of them had no first-hand knowledge of what God had done. So now you're going to institute all these festivals so that people can, you know, not only were they doing it, they've been taught why they're doing it. So now as the new generation comes back, so okay, God, this is God's standard. This is how we got to where we are. This is how we became a nation. This is how we became free. So it was a foreshadowing of Christ the Redeemer. And Lord, I always try to. The only thing, and understand the children of Israel knew that, so when they saw that final redemption come, unfortunately they were unaware. But God just didn't want to take us from a country that was oppressing His children to another place. He wants to take us, now He's opened up spiritually, where even though we're physically in the same place, we have opportunity to make a spiritual exodus from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. Because I'm saying people that are not saved now, they're not being held in Egypt or some particular country. People that are lost are being held in a spiritual prison, a kingdom. So now the exodus is spiritual, and that's why Jesus is the, you know, Moses was the foreshadowing, but Jesus not only the leader, He's the provider of everything. So it was a foreshadowing of Christ the Redeemer. There's going to become a Redeemer that's going to do even more than what Moses did. And the next one is the harvest of the first fruits. And where is that? Oh, I read it over here. Let's stay in Leviticus. I read through it. But let's look at starting with verse 9. Y'all bear with me. I'm not writing notes and I help them organize, then I get this organized. We're in Leviticus 23:9. And I will read to 12. Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land which I give you and reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruit of the harvest to the priest. He shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted on your behalf on the day of the Sabbath. The priest shall wave it. And you shall offer on that day, when you wave the sheaf, a male lamb of the first year without blemish, as a burnt offering to the Lord. That's a good thing about it. We pray the word for you to know that. It was about the fire, that burnt offering. So this is the first fruit of the harvest. Now the harvest, if you remember back, let me flip that right quickly here. In Exodus 23, (23:16) says, "In the feast of the harvest and the first fruit of your labors, which you have sown in the field, the feast of the ingathering at the end of the year." Now the feast of the harvest is at the end of the year. Now understand, Passover, beginning of the year, and the feast of the unleavened bread. Now we're at the end of the year. Now it's the first fruit, which means you're gathering. Now understand, the people are not even there yet in the promised land. But Jesus let them know, once you receive that harvest, you're to bring the first fruit. Now what does that first fruit, and this is how God dealt with it, what does that first fruit represent? Anybody here doing the farming or any planting to have a garden? I know some serious or some of you do, y'all plant things. That's plants. You have seeds, right? You know, you have to get seed. What you have to do with that seed to produce a crop? You have to bury it in the ground. What happens to that seed when it's buried? It dies. But it comes back to life as a plant. It goes in the ground as a seed, but it comes out the ground as a plant. With all kind of seed and all kind of fruit. That's the first fruit. Now what does that remind of us? After Jesus gave up the ghost and was taken off the cross, what happened? He was buried. He was sown into the earth. But on the third day, even though he was dead, he didn't come back the way he went in.
That's right.
So that harvest of the first fruit is in God is using something as simple as that agricultural system of planting this seed and getting all this abundance from one seed that died. Now I will allow my son to die and to be buried, but he comes back. You remember the first fruit? Because there's going to come a day when the first fruit is not going to be about these plants. It's going to be about my son and the resurrection of Christ.
Amen.
Bless Jesus.
He is going to be the first fruit. That's why you keep bringing it to me. You bring it back to me because that's where it came from. It was never about the seeds and the plant. It was always about Christ. That's why you bring the first fruit offering back to the priest that represent God. Because now you have been aware, without even realizing we are doing business in the spirit. So when Christ arrived, we already know the procedure that it went through. We've been doing all this change, been doing all these reminders of what the first fruit is. As a matter of fact, the first fruit was so special, but it said he should wave the seed. He should wave it. The first fruit. What the Bible said about Christ. If I be lifted up, I will draw all men to me. The first fruit is not to be hidden. The first fruit is to be elevated. For all to see it. And I'm dead to farm. Imagine farming. I know people that farm. I'm like, you have it because this is amazing. I mean, you had a handful of seed, and now you got acres of fruit from a handful of seed. I mean, that's amazing. As a matter of fact, it's something to be proud of. But Jesus said, as God is dealing with the children of Israel about this, remember this festival of the first fruit. There's going to come a day when my son is going to be glorified and elevated just like the seed of the first fruit. It's not going to be about the plant. You're going to see him high and lifted up. But you're already seeing foreshadowing of it over and over again. So the resurrection, and that's why you had that big drama after the resurrection. And some people didn't want to believe that, because I understand they knew the significance of that. They think, wait a minute, if Christ truly got up, we out of business. All this religious stuff is now null and void.
Come on.
Because when we come back now, I can't go around doing all this stuff we used to do. In fact, he don't fulfill everything. Either, but all this previous stuff, he has fulfilled it all. We've seen so many examples of it. It's almost like somewhere when you say studying for a certification or something, and you keep taking all the practice tests and a little test between, but then you take that final test. Guess what? After you pass the final test, what happens? You're not certified. You keep testing. No, they give you your certification task. And they understand well, all these foreshadowing, because the priest had to know these were just foreshadowing. But once you see Christ, like, wait a minute, he done filled all this. Like he done filled in all the blanks of the Old Testament.
That's right.
There's nothing left in there to be done. Now he's elevated. That's why Jesus told the disciples, like, look, I got all power in heaven and earth and given to me. Because I fulfilled all these requirements over all these years. Guess what? All this right now has been concentrated into me. And then God put him went to heaven, did the last of the time, went into actual real holy, sprinkled his pure blood on there. I was okay, now you sit down in the power seat. Because you running things. You keep running things, so I decide that we're going to sit everything down and gather the people. So the first fruit indicates Christ's resurrection.
Amen.
The end of the year, in fact, at the end of the year, it was a culmination of certain procedures. Now I'm saying the New Testament has become obsolete, but it was a fulfillment, that's a better word. It was a fulfillment of everything God had been talking about. Like that was the final example. So now here is the last example. Here, all of this has been leading up to this. Here's this event. So that's the significance of it. God's having them rehearsing it. Now the other one I found very, very interesting. The Feast of the Ingathering. They'll call it the Feast of the Tabernacle.
Yes.
And we're going to stay in Leviticus. We're going to read 23 still in Leviticus 23, start at verse 34. 34. And it reads, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be a feast of the tabernacle, for 7 days to the Lord. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. For 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. On the 8th day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is a sacred assembly, and you shall do no customary work on it. These are the feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire to the Lord, a burnt offering, a grain offering, a sacrifice and drink offering, everything on this day. Besides the Sabbath of the Lord, besides your gifts, besides all your vows, besides all your free will offerings, which you shall give to the Lord. Also on the 15th day of the 7th month, you shall have a gathering of the fruit of the land. You shall keep the feast of the Lord for 7 days. On the first day there shall be a Sabbath rest, and on the 8th day a Sabbath rest. And you shall take yourself on the first day the fruits of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, remember that, and boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook. And you shall rejoice before the Lord for 7 days. You shall keep it as a feast to the Lord for 7 days in the year. It should be a statute forever in your generation. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month, 42. You shall dwell in booths, which is another word for tabernacle, for 7 days. All who are native Israelites shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." So Moses declared to the children of Israel the feast of the Lord. Feast of the tabernacle, the feast of the booths. One thing, if you look back up here in 40. You should take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, and boughs of leafy trees, and willows brook, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. That sounds familiar? When Jesus came into Jerusalem, what did the people do? They went and got them palm branches, and they shouted, "Hosanna, save us." This was a foreshadowing of when Jesus came in, and this was what was going on. The Feast of the Tabernacle. It was at the end of the year. Now understand, let's look at what they're doing, what they're reminding people, what God tells them, reminding people of. You're being reminded right now that our God brought you out of Egypt. You wave these palms and these leafy boughs right now, and you put them down and you rejoice before me. Now what was going on when Jesus was there? They were occupied by Rome. See, I was completely convinced. The Romans didn't understand, but the real Jews had to understand what's going on. When you start waving those palm branches and talking about Hosanna and save us, you're saying, deliver us from these present oppressors. The mistake they made, they want to be delivered from Rome. Not knowing they need to be delivered from the influence of Satan, from the kingdom of darkness. But by celebrating this festival, you are saying, by waving these palms, we are free from where we used to be. We are celebrating the God. But it is interesting that I forward on the God, because Jesus wasn't on the scene when he first entered to it. So now that people recognize, well, wait a minute, Hosanna, this is God on earth. He can do the same thing for us that God did back for our predecessors in Egypt. So in essence, they were saying, save us. That was like an act of rebellion. It was like, destroy these Romans, get them out of this country. We want you to be ready. We want you to declare war. That was a declaration of war on Roman occupation. And it's called the Tabernacle of Booths because God wanted the children, He's making this at the end of the year, because again, you cycle right back into Passover after that, is that when you left, you had to live in these booths. It wasn't about the booth, it was a reminder, like I said, remember when I talked before, sometimes to change the way we think, we have to change our behavior. So I want you to remember distinctly, y'all give up your mansions and, give up the AC. I know Memphis didn't have all that. But now you might need to reduce yourself down to the way it was back then, so you can generally grasp what it was like for your ancestors and see the significance of where you were and where you are now. Think about the impact of that. And the people, to humble themselves, to acknowledge the fact that God had did this great thing, they went out and lived in tents to reenact what it was like to actually be saved. Because God said you don't need to forget that. Because if you forget that, you'll go right back to Egypt. And if you don't remember that, you can always judge where you are and see if you are in Egypt. So a lot of these things that we see right now are reminders of us. They're like checkpoints, like benchmarks. I don't know if they still use them on military maps. Probably not, because everything is electronic now. Do you remember those big benchmarks used to be on the military maps where you can orientate yourself? This is a high point here. You need to reference this point here from the benchmark. You can see all the stuff going on. So there's benchmarks that we need to be aware of. And these festivals are good for us to use as a point of reference on where we are and how we got there. Because think about the significance. If we would know and really, let's say that, well, no, that's too ridiculous. But let's say that for some reason we still would practice just as it was in that time. To have to go through all that. We'd be reminded of things. And a lot of things that go in church, I think we get a deeper revelation. And God said when you got saved, you was in the booth. You weren't flying around here in $65 million planes.
Amen.
You wouldn't have people send you money, while you ride around your Rolls Royce. You can have a Rolls Royce too. So a lot of things have gotten distorted because we've gotten away from the purity. I think we've talked about the purity of the gospel and how significant it was and what we really have and what's truly valuable and what's not. We have in the church today what I would call Egyptian tendencies. We want to look glorious and have a whole bunch of other stuff. We won't say that God's doing it. It may be and it may not be. Well, that was a serious fun trail. I don't get to go down that. But we just have to be aware of the simplicity of what God said and what these festivals say, and can use those as a point of reference, because that showed us it foreshadowed Christ as our provision. That was what the Feast of the Tabernacle of God saying, okay, we live in these tabernacles, and that's a way of showing humility by going back and living in those tents. So God brought us out, but He provided for us. So where we are now, we weren't always there.
There you go. There you go.
But this wilderness experience that our ancestors went through was an important part of us being where we are now.
There you go.
So as believers, we use this wilderness experience to sort of melt ourselves, and it will keep us humble, and it will keep us on the straight and narrow when we think about it and not get sidetracked. Because there's nothing worse than having made a U-turn and being spiritually in Egypt and don't know you're in Egypt. Because we're looking at the wrong signs. We're not even aware of the fundamentals of this is not God punishing us. He's taking us through these procedures. Can you imagine people, I'm not going there. I'm living on a tent. Anyway, AC out there in the tent. I don't want to do this. Well, I got to go live. You know how believers can be, so they want to question everything. Well, you don't have to. But we definitely need to be reminded to do things, because I'll tell you, once the times when God, by bringing them through the wilderness, it changed the people's perspective of what they had to do by taking them through certain things where it changed what their conditions changed the way they thought.
Yes.
So think about it, it would have made very little sense to liberate them from Egypt, and then they had all the luxury, Egypt-like tendencies. Because, okay, yeah, they're bringing Egyptian gods along with you. Yeah, you can do this, you can bring a little Baal and all this. Yeah, they'll do a little human sacrifice over if you want to, and You know, it's okay to kill each other, just all kinds of debauchery, do that, and lord over each other. Don't govern yourself at all. Treat people in a kind of way. If you get caught doing this, then it's not real. Just make up excuses for what you do. Don't do it all. Pay no attention that I sent my son and he died for you. That means nothing. I understand you. You're too important. You're more important than my son. Just do what you want to do. You'll be all right. I'll let you come on. I'll accept you in my heaven anyway. That's what we think. Well, God saying, I'm looking at God. I don't even recognize what that is. What does it say in Matthew? I think Matthew 5:7. People, oh God, didn't we do this, then I put on this great circle for you? Oh, you need to depart from me. I don't even know you. I have no idea who you are. But we did all these great things. And they probably did try verse 7. But God said, I do not even know who you are. I have no idea who you are.
That's what he said.
You're in the wrong kingdom. Amen. So those are the, so I stop there. No. I'm going to briefly go there. Okay, let's go back to Exodus. But I do want to finish. Y'all bear with me for about a few more minutes. Because now God has made them aware, and to me that's the ultimate revelation of who He is and what He expects from him on a high spiritual level by having the people to honor, to keep these feasts for 3 times a day. But let's look at, God gave them some more instructions at the end of Exodus 23. Let's start with verse 20. And I'm going to read from 20 to the end of the chapter to 33. Probably not a whole lot of discussion. I actually marked Exodus 20. I want you to reread that, please. Exodus 23, verses 20 through 33. In case I missed something, you can read it and meditate on it yourself. Exodus 23, verses 20 through 33. Because now these are the instructions God has given the children of Israel. He done revealed all this to them, gave these all these examples, told them all these things. Now He's telling them one thing. This is how you're going to conquer the promised land.
Okay.
And see, we need to know that because see, one thing in church, you can go through all of this, but okay, that's good information, but what do I do with it? How do I live a victorious life? I almost hate to use that, kind of like a cliche. But God has all this. He sets all this up. He's done all this for the people so they'll be armed with something. Now He's going to tell them, you're going to the promised land. This is how you're going to conquer it. Because I'm not just sending you in there and hope you make it. I'm going to send you in there with information so I know you can make it. That's why there's no failure in a true believer. We do not fail. A true believer does not fail.
There you go.
As long as we follow these instructions. And it reads, I'm going to read 20 through 24. Exodus 23, starting with 20. Say, behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in all the way, to bring you to the place which I have prepared. So first thing God said, I prepared a place. I'm sending an angel to take you there. So once again, it's not about you. You don't have to send it in the prayer closet. You got to take up an offering, a collection. One what's going on. There's already an angel. The place is prepared. I'm sending an angel to send you where I prepared. Where I prepared, not where I prepared. Lord, I better leave that one alone. I think a lot of believers not going where God prepared. They just going somewhere. They hoping they make it. God tells us we can know. Because He prepared to pay.
Yes.
And there's an angel to keep us in the way. It says 21, said, beware of him. Oh, here we go. Now, God, no, you don't. Beware of him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions. For my name is in him. God, wait a minute, I sent an angel that's representing me. He is my emissary. My name is in him. You just obey him and don't provoke him. Because he won't forgive you for your transgressions. He's under orders. He can't say, well, that's close enough. I know you didn't mean to disobey God. Just come on along anyway. No. Because that's why only 2 made it. Well, I'm jumping ahead. But you understand, that's the importance of God. I said, my name is in this angel that's telling you what to do. Don't provoke him, just do what he said do. Going on, 23. But if you indeed obey his voice, oh, now the good stuff, I like this one. But if indeed you obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. But they said, vengeance is mine, said the
That's the
Lord.
word.
We don't have to fight. We just obey God. And He becomes the enemy of our enemy. Oh, wait a minute. So we be trying to pray people up and do this and oh, we need to. You know some of that crazy stuff we do to try to conquer. Let's get the paper. My boss fussed at me today. Let's get the prayer warriors and just launch a spiritual attack against the boss. No. They launch an attack, but understand you already have victory over the boss. He might have got mad at you. He might have went off. He might have did all kind of crazy stuff. But as long as you're in God, He's God, Him, and God takes care of him.
No way.
No her. We don't have to worry about that. My angel will go before you and bring you into the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. God said, you're going to meet some opposition, but I'm going to take care of it. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their works. But you shall utterly overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. I think sometimes we might understand that. And understand, you don't have to go in when you're dealing with a situation where there's demonic influence, people doing ungodly stuff. We don't have to go down and launch a counterattack, like let's bring the prayer warriors in here and pray and put oil all over the place. He says, my angel goes before you.
That's what the word says.
But said, and I will cut them off. All we have to do is not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their works. But you shall utterly overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. You know, in certain situations, when you're dealing with a demonic entity, even though they have influence over you, you do not participate in their evil. You don't have to rebuke them, you just don't cooperate with them. Now, you know, some people get attacked. You don't like say, okay, I'm not going to do this because you're not the boss, I'm a Christian, I don't do that. But we cannot bow down. You know, it's times that we have to do things in our secular employment that we may not like. We have to be very careful to make sure we're not being disrespectful or we're not violating the authority.
That's true.
I can do what's right. A part of being obedient to those in authority over you is part of that submission to God. But by the same token, you don't have to participate with their methodology. Hopefully that'll help them in certain situations, because sometimes it can be challenging, and I tell you, it'll get almost confusing because it almost looks the same. Like, I can't do this. Wait a minute. Okay, you know what I do? What is my duty prescription? What am I prescribed to do? I remember this crazy dude rolled up on me at the parking lot that day. You remember that? And all I did, drove him nuts. Didn't intend to. He wasn't started issuing the edict. I said, okay, go get me the policy letter that says what you said right. Oh, he pulled out his cell phone to me, called the police. Go ahead. Call him. I don't care, call him. See, call National Guard. I know I made him mad. I wasn't intending to make him mad. But he just started irritating me. I said, no, just go now. See, it's unreasonable to ask for the policy. You're telling me that I have to do something. Okay, prove it. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you can tell the authority without being disrespectful. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I will do that. But I'm not doing anything illegal. That's not in my job description. And that's what I'm supposed to do. Now, I have to take a minute because we got to a debate, but I shushed him. I had to let him know, boy, you're so insignificant it doesn't matter. Then the lady asked me not to do it.
Come back, come on back.
Yeah.
Come on back.
I'm not proud about that. I guess at times there's a way to break down those vows without, having to confront and get into a whole big argument and debate, yelling back and forth. Because the first thing does, okay, prove that you have the authority to do what you're doing. Because I remember when this last funny trail, I remember way back when I was a junior NCO, senior NCO told me to do something that it wasn't right. It wasn't an appropriate thing to do. It wasn't the best thing to do. I tried to advise it, but I'll E5, E7, I'll lose that argument. But I said, well, I'll do it, but I want you to order me to do it. So, because I knew, because when the EA came in there and started talking about why y'all doing this crazy stuff, Sergeant Wilford ordered me to do it. And he went and ate Sergeant Wilford up like Pac-Man. I didn't do it to get him in trouble. But I knew, you know how it is sometimes, okay, you telling me to do this, just, I will submit to you. You just issue me an order, because when that EA comes, he gonna be mad. But you were mad at me for that. There's a way to deal with every situation and be ready. I didn't do it to get Sergeant Wilford in trouble. He was just, for lack of a better word, he was hell-bent for me to do what I told him. He had the arraignment, he had the authority to tell me what to do. It wasn't illegal. It just wasn't the best thing to do. And he found that out the hard way. I was sorry for him, but sometimes we need to run to the brick wall and find out it's hard. Okay, let's continue on these instructions. 25 through 28 reads, so you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water. I will take sickness away from the midst of you. No one shall suffer miscarriage or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my fear before you. I will cause confusion among the people to whom you come, and will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. I will send hornets before you that shall drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites from before you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Now, verse 29, stop right there for a minute. So a lot of times what God is telling them, even though this is the promised land, I'm not going to drive everybody totally away and just leave you here to do everything, because there's people that got knowledge that you need. So you don't need to be of them, but you need them around you so you get what you need from them. And it's not a bad thing, you have to understand that. They're coming, they've been enslaved for 400 years in Egypt. They're coming to a new land. There's information that the people that have the land need, but God said, I'm not driving away immediately, but eventually they're going to be gone. When you no longer need them, they're gone. Oh, that's going to be a lesson there. We no longer need them, they're out. So I understand even that right now, when you're dealing with situations, when you get what you need from some people, we need to separate from it. There's a time for everything, to deal with everything. And where am I? 29. Okay, I did 29, yes. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. I will set your bounds from the Red Sea to the sea, Philistia, and from the desert to the river, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them nor their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their God, it will surely be a snare to you. He's telling the children of Israel how to comfort the Lord. What he do, what he's going to do, and what we, his people, are responsible to do. But he tells us if we serve them, they will become a snare. We cannot live the worldly way and satisfy God. It can't be done. God doesn't do that. He's exclusive. He's a covenant keeper.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Covenants about these places where you live, where you can't do certain things, and somehow you can't be up here, repairing your car and changing your oil on the front lawn in this neighborhood. We don't do that. There's certain standards that God has for us here, and if we don't adhere to the standard, then God is understanding that it becomes a snare for me to don't honor that. Thank you for your time. Please stand to your feet. If they'll stand and come forward. Hopefully that was.
Go ahead and close out. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your word. We just ask and pray that word get deep down within us, Father. That we remember, Father, that we remember, Father, these memorials, Father. They're set in place for a reason, that we won't forget what you've done for us and what you're still doing for us, Father. That you are our deliverer, you are our provision. And as we go forth this week, Father, let us go forth, Father, knowing, Father, that you are with us, and that without you, we cannot do nothing.
Yes.
That we need you in all things. Father, as we go through this week, we ask that you bless each family of KCM and all their family members, wherever they may be in, whatever endeavor they may have to take on this week, Father. That you will put your blessing on them and your divine favor on this church, Father. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.